guys, it's John Barrett with Level Up Your Leadership. We're going to help give you visual lessons so that you can get better and develop and become the best leader you can possibly be. Today, I want to talk to you about the 80-20 leader. This is going to help you revolutionize on where you should spend your time, where you should invest your time. I get asked this question all the time as a leadership coach. People come to me and they say, John, where should I spend my time as a leader? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Should it be projects? Should it be people? Should it be on future things, on past things, present things? What should I do? And as you know, you've got a lot of demands on your time, and where you invest your time matters tremendously. It can make a huge impact. So what I want to talk to you about today is the 80-20 leader, where you should be spending your time, because 80% of your time should be spent somewhere and 20% somewhere else. So we're going to unpack that. Now, you've probably heard of the 80-20 principle. This is something that the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto came up with, the 80-20 principle. Basically, when he was observing his garden and he saw that about 20% of the crops of the different plants that he had were producing about 80% of the harvest of everything that he was getting from those. And so it led him on this journey to say, well, what else in life is like this? So he began to observe that 20% of all the roads held 80% of all the traffic jams. And that was just something that was known. And you could apply this 80-20 into anything. In fact, if you look at it in your organization, probably 20% of the people in your organization are producing 80% of the results, of the return on that investment. And think about this in your own productivity. Probably, more than likely, this happens all the time, 20% of what you're actually doing is producing 80% of your results and your influence and your effectiveness. So the 80-20 principle applies everywhere, but I want to talk to you about in the context of leadership, and more specifically in the context of where you should be spending your time, because the goal is to become an 80-20 leader. Now, here's what I mean by that. If you are the leader here, let's say that this is you and you are a happy leader, where should you be spending your time? Well, here's the deal. 80% of your time should be spent on the go. The go, G-O. Now, what do I mean by the go? It is growth opportunities. That's where you should be spending your time in the future, on opportunities to grow, growth opportunities. I call it the go. This is where you need to be spending your time on developing your team and thinking about the future, thinking about where you're taking your team and your organization. How are you going to get better in what you do in your business and in whatever it is that you're leading? How are you going to sail into the future and work on growth opportunities? That's where 80% of your time should be, is at the helm of the ship, looking down the line, figuring out where are we going and how are we going to get there as a team. Now, 20% of your time should be in what I call the do. The do. Now, what is the do? It's the daily operations, the daily ops. Right? The D-O, the do. 20% of your time should be spent in the daily operations, but just 20% of your time. That's the goal. Listen, most leaders get this totally flipped. They're doing the total opposite. They're 80%, if not a lot more, in the do, the daily operations. They're doing everybody's job. They're involved in everything. They're in the weeds. They're trying to move all these things forward. They're doing half of everybody's work, and they're just inundated in the do. And 80% of their time is over there, if not way more than that. I'm actually being generous. And only 20% of their time, or way less, is in the go. Growth opportunities, things down the line. In fact, if I were to sit down with you, where are you spending the majority of your time? Most leaders, when I first start to work with them, they're spending about 90% of their time over here in the do. Maybe at best 10% in the go, and that's at best. But listen, we've got to reverse this, because if you spend all of your time over here in the do, and you're just kind of in the weeds getting all things done as a leader, then that's a problem. Because who is spending their time thinking about development and where you're going and where you're taking this team and where you're taking the organization? If you spend all your time here, you're just going to maintain what you've got. You're never going to have what you need and be prepared for the future, because you're going to be inundated with the daily operations. And here's the pushback I get all the time is, John, There are problems over here, mountainous problems that we've got over here in the do. And if I don't step in and do something about it, if I don't get in and do the do, who's going to do the do? We got issues on our hands. And so what happens is it's kind of like gravity. It just pulls us down. Most people are pulled into the do because of all the problems. And they say, John, we don't have time to focus on that. Or they say this, once we solve all the problems and get rid of them, then I'll focus on the future and where we're going to go. Listen, that never happens. There will always be problems. There's always going to be issues. You know what great leaders do? Listen, they don't ignore the problems and the do, but here's what they do. They overlook certain things. They allow things to take place and spend their time over here in the go. They're okay with a margin of just issues going on. Listen, if you think you've got to tackle every single thing as soon as it pops up, kind of play whack-a-mole as a leader, right? As soon as something happens, you deal with it right then and there. Listen, if you have that outlook, this is always going to have moles that are coming up that you're just going to have to whack the mole and get involved in the do. Sometimes as a leader, you've got to make sure that you're spending your time over here and that you are doing this, ready? You are raising up a team of people that are working and taking care of things. Listen, if you're spending all your time in the do, here's the question I've got for you. What is going on with your team? What is happening? If you're doing all the do, why isn't your team doing it? You've either got one of two issues. You either got a hiring issue because you're getting the wrong people in here that don't know what they're doing, or you've got are you ready for this? Leadership issue, where you are not holding them accountable and driving them and pushing them to take care of the do so that you can spend your time in the go. Now, when you think about your team, here's what you've got to think about. They're going to spend their time somewhere, but here's the deal. In the go, they need to be spending about 20% of their time in the go and about 80% of their time in the do, the daily operations. See, it's totally reversed from you. You spend a little bit of time directing them and helping them and being able to develop them and work on with them and getting things done. But they're 80% in the do and just 20% in the go, where they're helping you and you're moving them forward and you're working with them on how to improve, get better, take them into the future and level up the organization, all those things. But if you're not doing this, if you're not spending your time here, you're going to be spending all your time in the do. And that is a leadership issue because you've either got the wrong team or you don't doing your job to hold them accountable. So where are you investing your time? Listen, if you will start focusing on the go and the growth opportunities and start looking at how can I take us into the future, it's going to revolutionize your impact. It's going to revolutionize your success. Listen, highly successful leaders, highly successful organizations, they spend an immense amount of time in the go. They're focused there, and that's why they're sailing into the future. They're prepared for it when market changes, when new opportunities arise, new technology, when new things happen. They're ready for it because they're spending their time preparing for it. Listen, the organizations that say, we don't have time for that, we got fires, we got too much going on, and they spend all their time here, they're never ready for what's going to come. In fact, they never experience growth. You know why? Because they're not ready for it. They don't even see it. They're not even looking for it because all the eyes is over here on the do. The eyes of the leader, the eyes of all the team members here, everybody's just looking at the do, the do, the do. That's all they're focused on, and they don't see opportunities. But when you begin the transition as a leader and you begin to get your eyes over here in the go, and you begin to focus on that and spend as much time as you can in there, you're going to be ready for the future. Now, doesn't mean you ignore this stuff. You spend a little bit of your time there, but not all of it. Listen, when you do this, it's going to revolutionize everything as you sail into the future, as you work towards becoming more successful in what you do. Now, listen, nobody starts there. You don't start there and you don't get to the 80-20 leader overnight. You don't just say, oh, okay, John, I'm going to start focusing in the go. Here I go. Tomorrow I'm going to do it. No, you're not going to do it. This is hard. This takes a lot of intentionality and work in order for that to happen. So what I want to encourage you to do is this. I don't care if you start with a 90-10, 90% in the do and 10% in the go. What I want you to work on is upping it. So can you get down to 80% in the do and 20% in the go? And then challenge yourself. Can you get to 75% of the do, 25% of the go, maybe 50-50 at one point? That's fine. I want you to start somewhere. Nobody gets there overnight. You got to start somewhere. But what I want you to do is move towards the 80-20. It's like a compass. You're always challenging yourself of, am I doing that? I don't know if anyone ever arrives there completely. I mean, they have and they do, but it's not about arriving there overnight. It's about working towards it. You're always going to be pulled back here, but you've got to always be intentional and measure yourself against, wait a minute, where am I putting my time? Am I putting it over here in the go, or am I over here? And you just work towards the 80-20. When you do that, it's going to revolutionize you, your leadership, your impact, your organization, and your team, because they're going to develop and they're going to get better because you're spending time in the go, helping them get better. I hope this was helpful, guys. Listen, go over to johnbarrettleadership.com. Check out all my resources I've got where I want to help you get in the go. I want to help you become the leader that you need to be. So go check out all the books, podcasts, videos, resources, everything over there at johnbarrettleadership.com. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Keep leveling up in your leadership. Reach out to us today so we can help take you and your team to the next level.